It's Jerry Corsi. I'm back.
Welcome back, Dr. Corsi.
Dr. Corsi. Thank you. Well, I'll tell you, I don't mean to interrupt, but first of all, thank you, everybody. I mean, everybody's seen what the book is doing. It was now number 12. 11. Wow. I mean,
don't shortcut yourself.
Thank you. We can get this to number 1. We can get this to number 1. And if we get it to number 1, Trump is going to take notice.
I doubt very seriously that he has gone not noticing you. I am absolutely certain that he's noticed all of this.
Trump does. Trump follows this every day. He's following this constantly. I've known Trump for a long time. And I've known him for quite a long time. I mean, decades. And Trump and I was talking with him when I put this book together with Chris Ruddy. And Trump's aware, I'm sure, but if it gets to number 1, that's going to make the kind of impact that I want to make, so that it has to be noticed, it has to be seen, and it has to be interviewed, it have to be, and Trump will, I think, respond by holding it, and he'll respond by doing something with it, and also, the Isikoff book is 19 now, The Russian Roulette, which is terrific, because I think their book is just going to be another attempt to trash Trump and to keep this lying narrative of Russia going. Russia. It's going to be a disaster for Trump to. He's got to get rid of this narrative, and if killing the deep state gets to be one, it's going to make an impact across the country. It'll really shake things up in New York and Washington. And that's why, so first of all, I really want to thank everybody, because this could not have been done without the Patriot Soapbox. I mean, you guys did this. Not me, you guys did this. And I want to say thank you.
We got your back, Dr.
Well, I deeply mean it. I mean, it's not just for the sales. I mean, it's for making the impact, for getting the word out there, for getting the interviews, making Fox have to interview me, which they probably will, even Fox, try not to do. And they try to ignore this. If they get away with it, it'll be a missed chance for Trump. That's why we got to keep pushing it. Yes.
What they do is they don't want the truth out. Even Fox is one of the propaganda sites. It's sad. It really is. We don't have a single mainstream source.
We don't have anybody.
Yeah.
Except for, Hannity is good. Hannity I will shout out to and say he's done a great job. Tucker Carlson's done a good job. Rush Limbaugh's always done a good job. But even Mark Levin did not believe in Trump at first. And, I think what we've got going here is the opportunity to have a major impact in getting QAnon on the front page. And that's where I think we have we've got to keep this going. We've got to get the word out, and have those who join us later through the day that get on board and do what they can to get the word out, to buy some books now, because we're on a roll. We can get it up to number 1.
Do you write about QAnon in the book, Dr. Corsi?
It was before, the book was written before the history of this for me was, the book was done, and I was having a meeting with someone at the Harvard Club, having lunch, and they brought the word to me that that basically it would be a good idea if I got involved in this. And I said I hadn't really looked at it. Been writing the book, and it started in October, and I've been writing the book and finishing the book. I can tell you, when I wrote the book, look here in the for a second in my directory, and I'll tell you exactly when I was writing the book. I started the book. Yeah, that's what I thought. I started the book like in September, and I finished it in December. So in October, I was pretty well still drafting the book, and was not at that point able to follow anything except what I was doing in the book. And QAnon started right as I was finishing the book. He started posting. And so that the lunch was to recruit me to get me interested in following this, that this was a real phenomenon, that this was the first time this level of this level of intelligence had been shared with the public, and that the format was, on the 8chan was exactly kind of the deep way to share it with the Anons that had been chosen by Trump as the way this message was going to get out. And they wanted me to get involved in it. And that's when I did the first decodes. As soon as I started looking at them and realizing what Q was saying, and I did a couple of decodes, then I understood what was going on. And so by Christmas time, I was then willing to commit to do it. And that's when I told the people who'd asked me that I said, yes, I'll do it. So that's that chronology. Because at first I was not, really able to pay that much attention. So the book does not discuss Q directly, but what Q is doing and what the book is about are so much the same that the book gives me a platform to talk about Q and to expand into Q and to get every
prequel to Q.
Pardon me?
Would you say it's a prequel to the Q story?
Yeah, it really is, but it's one and the same. I mean, the Q story, everything in my book is consistent with everything that Q was saying. And now we're just taking it to a new level as things develop and as it unfolds. I'm pretty sure I had gotten information already, from Q as the book was in progress. And I'm pretty sure Q had a good idea what the book was going to do. And Trump did too. I mean, Trump called me up when I was with Chris Ruddy and said he wanted an autographed copy of it. So, of course, that can be pretty easily arranged. And I was, pretty surprised. It was kind of, an honor that he said that he wanted a copy like that. But I know he's going to want to read it. He's going to want to promote it, even just carrying it around. Walking up Air Force One with it in his hand would be enough to demand that the mainstream media pay attention to it when otherwise they'll just ignore it. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we're fighting a battle here to get an attention that the book needs to get in order to tell the message to a broad enough audience across America of what's involved. Now, my radio schedule, which is, and there's still, I was, at the publisher today, I was, we're talking about, I went on Newsmax television for a clip to promote the book. And I told the publisher what we're going to do, what I'm going to do, raising money to give copies to people who couldn't afford them. That's was viewed as a good idea. I'm going to be sending those out, I think, through Amazon, because Amazon can mail them directly. Yes.
I said, I want one.
Well, I mean, sending them out, I want people who can't afford it, people who really, anybody who buys the book, I will sign the book if you send it to me, or I will sign a book plate and send it to you. You just have to send me a book with the postage paid to return it and an envelope, so I can just slip it in the envelope and send it back to you. But I will sign books, and I never charge anything for signing books. But then this idea of I want to raise some money on, I think on the GoFundMe or one of those channels that for people who want to donate money for books, and then I'll just, whatever money comes in, I'll buy that amount of books and send them out to people through Amazon who, email me and can't afford it. At least it's within as much money as we can raise to do that, because it gets to be pretty expensive after a while just to, I have to buy the books to send them out. I don't get them free.
That's great. Dr. Corsi, I just want to throw a few things from YouTube. One suggestion, request it at your library.
That's a good suggestion. Oh, I should put up on, we should get a link here, and I should put up that I'm on the, I had, been such a busy day today. Somebody will give me a link, I'll post it on, that I'm back up on the live chat. Let's see, is it, somebody post that now? Is it the one with live at the end of it?
Doesn't say live, but I pulled it right off the live stream.
I know there's a way to pull it off where it says live at the end. Let's see if somebody did that. I like these memes you guys have done, by the way. The Dr. Corsione to Eric Schmidt. I think they're really hilarious. I've been using the one with me in the glasses. I think that's a hilarious one.
They're fantastic.
Yeah, they're great. I like the memes are terrific. And by the way, this Schwarzenegger today, I was pounding him a bit on. He says he wants to sue Big Oil for first-degree murder. He said, I'm flying around his private jet and everything else the way he lives. There we go. That's the live one. I got it. Let me post this here. I'm going to go over here and do that. I gotta get this link in here. Okay, and let's say today is Monday, and it's what,
Monday
the 12th?
12th.
Okay. At 4:30. Okay, so that's there now, and they'll get that on both Gab and on Twitter. So that word's out there. No, I'm saying the whole idea of getting the book marketed, it is really about getting the platform to tell the story, to get the word out. That's what's so important about it. Let's see. I'm just taking a look at what people are saying in the live chat. I will. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to. You can email me at jrlc@yahoo.com. And I'm getting overwhelmed over there. I mainly have to have some help sorting through all this because people are emailing, and I'm delighted to have them email. I'm going to try to read as many of them as I can, and then I'm going to try to get books out. Now, I'm going to try. I think I'll have to first put up the GoFundMe, and I'll try to see if someone had a start at that yesterday. I'm going to take a look at that before the day is over. And people are saying the book talk. I know. Well, just let's talk about the book for a while, for a bit. People are saying that they don't want the book talk. The book. It's not so much the book talk as it is please understand that, this is getting the message out. It's being able to get Q to a broader audience. It's not about selling books to me on this one. This is about really, does the book mention Q? As I say, I wrote the book before I got into Q, but everything about this is going to be consistent with Q, and it gives me the platform to explain how it transitioned me into Q. And if Trump picks up on it, then, I think we're really off to the races, because, I can affirm that Q is working directly with Trump, and we can take, the red pilling that this is intended to do and get it to be very visible across the country, as opposed to Isakov's book and others' books that are, take a look at Isakov's book. It's out there to promote the idea that Trump is in collusion with Russia again. I mean, if you haven't seen the cover of it, I'm going to post it up here. Wait a second. Okay, hold on a second. It's here's the link to it on Amazon. And the book is clearly aimed at trashing Trump. Okay, here we go. And so if you look at that, you'll see what I could cut and paste the cover of it here. Wait a second. I'll screen capture it. So the people, if people are, bear with us for a little while over there in the YouTube, we will be returning to Q, but we're still talking about Q. That's the point I'm making, is that this is all about getting the platform out there. This is the book. This is Isakov's book. Okay, that you can see it right there. That's what he's got. He's got, Russian roulette backwards, so the R and the N, and the inside story of Putin, the war in America, and the election of Donald Trump. And of course, he's got Kushner and Manafort and Putin. It's like all these four work together to steal the election. I mean, it's so ridiculous. The whole story is made up by a combination of Brennan and Eric Schmidt and a bunch of others that, Hillary Clinton, that decided they were going to tell this propaganda lie. And now they've got Isakov and David Korn, and, wanting to make it a #1 bestseller and have it go on for another month to trash Trump, keep the Mueller investigation going on. That's why I'm so determined to see if I can't take my book and get enough of a big platform. And right now, got lots of radio, but the television is lagging behind because I got trashed so hard with Obama that they did everything they could to keep me off television, threatening the advertisers and everything else. That for, 8 years, it was impossible. So that's basically the story right there. And I think it's one that if we can continue and, through today and tomorrow to make sure we continue pushing this. And the idea that the publisher gave me is that if people go, have the book or go into the stores and buy it at Barnes & Noble or wherever and take a picture of themselves with the book, I'll start posting those up on Twitter. Show people with the book.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think, that's again a way to show that this is a army out here that is patriots that are determined to fight for Donald Trump. And I think on Twitter, if they continue to see those pictures every day, I mentioned Q in almost all my TV interviews and radios. Almost every one of them, I'm able to mention Q. Some of them are so short, you come on morning drive time and you only get a few sound bites to get the idea of the book out there. But then when people start following me and start getting into it, I think they begin to understand that it's, you know, the Q is the main driving force right now of what we're doing. And I'm going to represent the book as, you know, this was, as I came on to Q, it was so consistent with what I was writing that I immediately began to decode them and wanting to get the message out to a broader group. And then realizing the extent to which Donald Trump is behind this, I think that, you know, we've got really a movement here that's going, and a movement that is quickly going to be beyond just the confines of the Anons into the larger society. But I still like that the revolution, the second revolution, starts with the Anons, because it was the same way the first revolution started. So, you know, I will do these various steps to get the book out there and to make sure people who can't afford to get copies, because I want to see I think the book being everywhere will set the stage for the debate. And if the mainstream media gets to suppress the book, you know, which they can if it gets to be number one. I've fought this battle any number of times. Did it with John O'Neill and Unfit for Command. And John O'Neill was terrific. He was a great patriot. He was really the hero of that book. People are saying, are you free TV Hitler's Daughter on YouTube? Tell us if you can verify this mind-boggling information. Okay, so shall we get into some of the, should we now shift gears and do some of the decoding about Hitler's Daughter and some of the other issues that Q raised? And maybe Q will be listening to us and I wouldn't be surprised to see Q start posting again. The last one we got on March 10th, you know, we went too deep, attempted to pull back. I think Q felt like some of the themes that were opened up were just a little bit, you know, sprung on us, and they're coming in such rapid succession. But we're going to get into these themes. The full playing out of what this is all about is going to demand going back into the history. So people are asking us over there in the live chat to spend a little bit of time on Hitler's Daughter. It's a fun subject. I mean, I've been studying it for years. Everybody think that's a good idea?
Yes,
Yeah,
thank
that's
you.
a great idea.
Okay. Well, let me find a couple pictures here where we can start this. Hold on a second. Let me get a couple of good images here. Just do Hitler's Daughter. And all kinds of stuff comes up. Now, I'll try to find a couple of I usually like to start out this, and let's go back and say Merkel. Okay, here we go. Now, I'm going to show you here's the picture that starts it all off, okay? This is one right here. Let me screen capture this. I'm going to drop it into the Discord box here in a second. Okay. Okay, this is the picture that starts it all off. Right there. And you can see that's Hitler with this little girl. Now, if you look closely at the little girl, you're going to see the facial resemblance to Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. Does everybody see it? I mean, I can try to get it. If you pop it up, it's a little clearer. Click it and it enlarges. It's a little bit clearer. Does everybody see that?
Yes, let's see. I'll see if I can find a way to share that image.
Oh, yeah. Same facial expression.
Almost everything is the same. I mean, here's a close-up of that picture. Let me get this too. And this is the picture that starts the discussion always off, right here. And the way people, really look at this and have to understand it is that for genealogy or for genetics, I've always said 90% of it has to do with how people look. I mean, you got to start there. I always do, you know. And here's a close-up of the two of them, that same picture. Okay, if you can share that across, make sure everybody sees it in the live chat.
Now, what I'm going to do, Dr. Corsi, is upload it to Imgur and then share that link so everyone can go there.
Okay, that's good. Do that.
Dr. Corsi, can I just make a comment real quick, sir?
Certainly.
Can somebody do a side-by-side photo of the young girl that's with Hitler and then put the recent Angela Merkel?
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of those. You know, it doesn't take any big deal to do that. Hold on a second. Let me just show you this one. This is a good one on that angle. Let's see if I can get a bigger copy of it, first of all. I've got that covered.
That photo was taken?
Well, we know years it had to have been taken in, and Hitler, there's a good way to know what year Hitler's pictures are. First of all, he looks healthy. He doesn't look like he's got Parkinson's disease. He's wearing his Nazi uniform. He's thin. So my guess is that picture is certainly right around 1933 when he became chancellor, maybe a little younger than that. But, you know, right around 33,
Top of the picture.
37. Okay, well, 37. But certainly before the war. Certainly before the war, because
What are our numbers out there?
We're at 3,330 watching right now.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just switched over to look. So,
And,
Dr. Corsi,
Yes.
while our sound is down,
Okay, the
I
sound
know
should be
there's a
back.
lot.
Sound should
Back
be back
now?
for him. Yeah, it should be back for him now.
Never mind. I'll save that tongue-in-cheek for later.
Okay. So, hold on. I think we've got the sound back now for everybody. Should be sound back. Before we get too much more into
Calling
this.
it out.
Okay, good. Before I should have prefaced this whole discussion with the disclaimer that all this exploration of Merkel being Hitler's daughter is not one that this one that Q suggested. The topic is there, and it's not going to be one that is. This is going to be highly controversial, and I'm going to say from the beginning that I don't know that we are going to be able to resolve it, whether it's 100% true or not 100% true. And I'm not going to. I don't want to present it to you as if I'm asserting that it's true. Okay, I want to show you what the evidence is here, and I want to show you why people are arguing this and what the arguments are about Merkel. But I mean, people are basically saying in the live chat that Merkel was born in 1954. It's not possible that this little girl in 1937 could have been Merkel. Maybe Merkel's grandmother. I mean, okay, the point is, I'm going to show you what the first point is: physical resemblance. Okay, and that's, I don't think there's much doubt about a physical resemblance that's there. Now, physical resemblance are kind of like eyewitness testimony. It's never conclusive. It's suggestive, it's important, but it's not 100% conclusive. I mean, and but this is a topic that I was first aware of in graduate school. I mean, it's not that this has been, this topic goes back decades, and it's been going back decades. I don't know. Some of these pictures are not particularly flattering of anybody, but
Yeah, they need a pretty family.
here's one of the okay, there's one where they show his Hitler mustache on Merkel. And when you look at her eyes and her mouth and her expression and, all the physical features of Merkel, Hitler always had we very characteristically in that frown, the eyes with the bags under the eyes, the shape of the nose, the lips, you can't see the ears on this picture, but I've done lots of photo comparisons. I did a lot with the photograph of Lincoln that I think is an early Lincoln. But it's disputed by the historians. It's fascinating. It's fascinating, to consider these things. Hold on. I'm losing my voice again. And I appreciate all the remedies people send me. And I will tea and the like, and honey. But it's a characteristic I've had all my life. My throat is, I had gangly on it. They had to be operated on for a while, going back 30 years ago. So here's the article. This is the article. It's one of the better articles on the subject, but there's a bunch of them. A lot of the records of the Hitler family and Hitler's, Merkel became part of the Stasi file. The Stasi were the East German, as it were, the East German secret police. And so there's a lot of mysteries in this file because, for instance, 54, child was born, a baby girl whom the Stasi file identifies as Angela Merkel, today's Chancellor of Germany. Her official birthday is July 17, 1954. However, the Stasi file, which is currently in the Soviet KGB archive, citizens file in the Ministry of the State Archives is correct, then Hitler's daughter, Angela Merkel, was born on Adolf Hitler's birthday. Now, what they have argued is it isn't there's even an argument about that it may have been Hitler's frozen sperm. So, I mean, this stuff gets to be pretty wild because a German doctor, Karl Klauberg, who was one of the angel of death doctors in the concentration camps, was convicted as a war criminal. According to the reports, he was released by the Soviets after serving 7 years of his sentence and returned for turning over to the KGB his hidden files on Nazi artificial insemination experiments, and more specifically the frozen sperm of Hitler. Hitler's father, who took the name of Hitler, was, and this is another part of the whole story. I mean, this is, again, I probably never would have raised any of these had Q not done the suggestion of it by referring on Sunday to Hitler's bloodline and the issues around Hitler's bloodline. So please, in the live chat and the like, and I don't want to get thrown off YouTube again for people saying I'm proposing crazy theories. They don't want any of this discussed over there on YouTube. But, basically, I'm going to show you what the argument is about. And I'm not going to necessarily say that we can prove that, Merkel is related to the Hitler bloodline. So is that enough qualifications to keep us from getting into trouble? Probably not.
I appreciate that approach for one, so thank you.
Okay, and I mean, we're just going to look at the evidence. There's a lot of it out there that's been argued. Now, one of the real complications in Hitler's background was that his father, who took the name Hitler, and the family has the name Schuckelgruber in it. When I was a kid, it was the big joke of kids. All of our fathers had fought in World War II, and it was Adolf Schuckelgruber. And they said he came from a family of paper hangers, and he hung wallpaper. I mean, that was the family. And so if he'd been named Schuckelgruber, the question was, do you think he ever would have risen to be Führer in Germany with a name like Schuckelgruber? So at any rate, the backstory is that Hitler's father was the illegitimate son of Solomon Rothschild's mistress, Anna Maria Schuckelgruber. And according to the way the German names were, the routine for using Germans' names, if the child was illegitimate, the child got the name of the mother. So Aldous Hitler, the father of Adolf Hitler, was really Aldous Schuckelgruber. So and that got changed down the road when the Hitler name came into the family. They got rid of the Schuckelgruber as quickly as they could. Upon the receipt of the Nazi files on artificial insemination, along with Hitler's frozen sperm, the Politburo authorized the experiments to resurrect, if possible, a child bearing the genetic markers of Adolf Hitler. It was reasoned that the combining of the genes between Hitler's sperm and Eva Braun's closest family member would produce for the Soviets a near match of what a child of Hitler and Eva Braun should have been, had one been born. So Dr. Klauberg brought Gretel Braun to communist East Germany. She was the youngest sister of Hitler's wife, Eva Braun. She was chosen as a surrogate mother of Hitler's offspring using artificial insemination from Hitler's frozen sperm. And Gretel Braun was a member of the Social Democratic Party whose ideology centered on the principles of Marxism and the interests of the working class and trade unions. Okay, so now is this strange enough for everybody, or want to get another level deep into it?
No, I want to go take a shower now.
When Dr. Klauberg returned to West Germany, he was imprisoned, and he was murdered 2 years later while he was still in custody. Soon after the birth of Hitler's baby girl, an agreement between the Soviets, the Americans, and the Vatican was arranged. The baby was placed under the control of the Catholic Church through its connections with the GDR Lutheran Church to custody the baby. It's given a false date of birth, July 17th, and the name Angela Dorothea Kasner, daughter of Horst Kasner, a Lutheran pastor, and his wife Herlind, an English and Latin teacher. Then the countryside of Templin in East Germany, Merkel was raised about 50 miles north of Berlin, the capital of the socialist German Democratic Republic. And then the centralist theme of the agreement between the Western Allied powers, the Vatican, and the Soviets was that Hitler's daughter would be elevated into international power, but her ascendancy to power would not come until the Vatican also brought to power a German pope. In the wake of the death of Pope John Paul II, the former German Nazi Joseph Ratzinger was nominated. Okay, Ratzinger was in the Hitler Youth, and I can show you pictures of Ratzinger with his Hitler Youth uniform with a cap with a swastika on it.
Right down below.
Oh, it's down below. We have to go far for it. He took the name of Pope Benedict the 16th on April 20th, 2005, Vicar of Rome, coincidentally Hitler's birthday. And in 77, Angela Dorothea Kasner became Angela Merkel with her marriage to physicist Ulrich Merkel, but the marriage ended in divorce in 1982. She was Chancellor of Germany shortly after Pope Ratzinger assumed the leadership of the Catholic Church on Hitler's birthday. Okay? Now, that's the story, and that's the explanation for why the little girl may look like him, but is probably couldn't be Merkel. But yet, again, there are a lot of Germans probably who look similar, and physical resemblance is not proof of lineage. Okay, now this article, and I'm going to post it again so everybody can see it. And let's take a look at what they're saying in the live chat. And remember that I'm going to say again that Q basically brought all this up because Q, there's the article that we've been reading from. I like the picture of the dog looking quizzically at all this. What are we talking about? Q on Sunday on post. There was a whole raft of posts. We got flooded with them on Sunday. Not only posted Obama. When he's done, he'll claim Kenyan citizenship as a way to escape. So she brings in Obama's lineage and the uncertainties around it. And then
what post are you on?
That was the post 894, where we had the death head. And when we're done, he'll claim Kenyan citizenship as a way to escape. Okay? And then a few later, we had some Snowden posts. Then 901, Q went back to that and pointed out that Tillerson was in Kenya, and there was this whole discussion of Uhuru Kenyatta and welcoming Odinga. Well, Odinga is the tribesman who is the cousin or, nephew. I'm not sure whether it was blood nephew or tribal nephew. That got debated 2008. But he was a communist. His father was a communist. And he was the one that Obama was trying to get into being president. And Obama actually did a lot to try to get Odinga president, including questioning an election that occurred in 2000, I believe, 8, before the November election, where Obama was elected president of the United States, and it was contested. Odinga had lost the election, but he was made to be co-president with the winner of it. Kenyatta is probably the family that is most revered, and they're Kikuyu. They're not Luo. They're the dominant tribe, and most associated with freedom in Kenya would be the Kenyatta family. And so, this is the Kenyatta, Kikuyu, and the Luo shaking hands, which are two tribes that hate each other. And that all was in post 901. So Q is clearly going into Obama's lineage. And then when you come up to, let's see, where is it? It's 928. He starts out with Angela Dorothea Kasner, daughter of a pastor, name of father, history of the father. Okay, so now this is Hitler's lineage that Q is into now in this one, and it gets down to saying, risk a conspiracy label. The deeper we go, the truth would shock the world. Now, as soon as I read that, what it triggered in my mind was that Q was aware, as am I, of this bizarre story of who Angela Merkel is, and that it's a conspiracy theory, and the deeper we go, the truth will shock the world. Now, I think Q is in large part going here because of the impact the intelligence agencies have had on selecting our presidents and leaders around the world, being creations of intelligence agencies, and being money brought to them, opportunities, position brought to them because they were chosen to do the bidding of the intelligence agencies and groomed for the role. And the argument can be made about Hitler, the argument can be made about Merkel, and it can be made about Obama. And that's, again, part of the deep state. As I pointed out, Vernon Jarrett, who is the father-in-law of Valerie Jarrett, wrote an article in, I believe, 1979, saying that essentially what the article was about was that the Saudis, through al-Mansur, who was a black militant, Black Panther, changed into a black Muslim, had been working with al-Walid. Saudi Arabia, they had money to promote the education of black children who they thought might be president. And it's been speculated that money partly went to Obama because al-Mansur surfaced when Obama wanted to go to law school at Harvard, and al-Mansur contacted Percy Sutton, who was an attorney in Harlem, and asked Sutton to write a letter recommending this Obama to be admitted into Harvard Law. And there's a video of Percy Sutton discussing this in a television interview. And so again, all these issues relate to the intelligence backgrounds behind who these leaders are. Now, I would think, and hoping in the YouTube chat, that makes it a little bit more reasonable why we're talking about these things. I'm not out on a limb saying that someone born in 1954 is showing up in a picture with Hitler in 1938. But this history needs to be taken into consideration, and and the only reason we're discussing it is because Q brought it up. Now, Onu Moku over here in the live chat and says, in 1977, Obama was pointed out to me, and I was asked if anybody had ever told me that he was being groomed for the presidency. Dr. Corsi is directly on target in his discussion. Okay, Ratzinger was a member of the Hitler Youth as required by law. He was also forced into the military service. Ratzinger was never a Nazi except for his youthful period, and all the kids were Nazi, were Hitler Youth, and they were also forced into the military. And it is inappropriate to assume that Ratzinger is a Nazi. Ratzinger's theology is very traditional, and he bears a strong line of thinking, as far as I'm concerned, from Aquinas. He's not an Augustine thinker, but he is clearly Aquinas. Okay, let's see if there's anything else over here to comment on. 140 families combined to the New World Order. This whole elite, the Bilderbergers, the Trilateral Commission, all of these. There is a small elite group that and has since medieval times, when the rulers were exchanged. One of the members of the court of the Habsburg would go to this court and that court, and they try to intermarry the royal courts to try to bring unity to the different countries. It didn't work.
Well, and they were trying to expand their bloodline too, because they were getting some issues with genetic defects.
No doubt about it. Okay, so now let's just say, people are saying here, if you've not spent at least 40 hours studying Q posts, then that is where you need to start. Read them, answer them, research, learn. I mean, the Q posts are very, very, the Q personality of groups of people are brilliantly versed in all of these issues of history as well as current politics on the global elites in the New World Order. And it's not incidental that Trump emerges as a populist, America First, to support the Constitution. It's why we support Trump to restore the Constitution, to restore the principles of, we don't need a New World Order. We have a perfectly good order with the founding fathers. And, all of this, okay, so then people are asking me about Ratzinger. Was Ratzinger a pedophile? Why did he resign? Can he could be arrested by the Italian police. He abducted many children. Look, I don't know the entire reason why Ratzinger stepped down. He's really one of the first popes to step down, and it was a shock when he did. Pope Francis was brought on and has really become much more of a leftist, a socialist, a communist. And, there's a lot of arguments that within the church, those who wanted to move the church in a leftist direction to, accept the pedophilia, won out over Ratzinger, who was opposed to it, because Ratzinger's writings are very opposed to the pedophilia. Ratzinger was also very deeply involved in the Third Secret of Fatima. He was the one who was assigned to figure it out and to publish it, and I still don't think he published the full information on the third secret. Third secret of Fatima is that the Pope and a group of clergy are going up this hill, and they're attacked by another group of clergy with arrows and spears, and the Pope gets killed. They're going up to a cross that's on the top of a mountain. I think Ratzinger was a pedo hunter within the church. I really think that Ratzinger was, my read of Ratzinger was he was a traditional Thomas Aquinas theologian. And he, I hear Linda Maria Della Rosa, whose comments I've seen before, known to be Catholic, and I tend to agree with her. Ratzinger was a holy person. I think Ratzinger, in my view, I'd be very surprised if he was not what he seemed, a man of God. And I don't think he was a Nazi. I think he was, yes, it's, like Kurt Waldheim, who was a head of the UN, had to resign after his Nazi associations came out. Kurt Waldheim was a Nazi. Werner von Braun was in the SS. He was a Nazi. These were people who did. The photo of the Pope with the upside-down cross. Yes, we can go through that, but again, there's a lot of in the Satanism in the church and the current Pope imagery that is, I find disturbing. But I don't think you're going to find that same thing disturbing in, I don't see Ratzinger. If anything, Ratzinger was, I think, outside of this, and he was much more traditionalist within the church and was viewed as a traditionalist. Okay, so people asking also, is my book, The Hunting Hitler, the basis of the Histories chapter? I've talked to the people who did that. I think my book was certainly one of the reasons they did it. My books did very well, but we're both keying off the fact that in recent years, the FBI and to some extent the CIA has released a lot of material which makes it very clear that the federal government was searching for Hitler through the 60s. And I went to the archives, found a lot more material that had been lost, including the submarines that went to Argentina. And at least one of them, I think, did bring Hitler and Eva Braun. And there's a group called the Shark Hunters, which I think also have been very instrumental in advancing this whole work of understanding what happened to Hitler at the end of World War II. JDAR 2001 says Ratzinger knows the third secret, and he completed the triangle for the coming of Merkel promise between the USA and Germany and the Vatican. The whole history of the third secret, when John Paul II didn't release it when it was supposed to have been released, has caused nothing but, again, mystery. And I don't know why it wasn't released. It should have been released. As Harry Cooper and the Shark Hunters. I've corresponded with Harry Cooper and the Shark Hunters. I follow them, and I admire the work that they've done. I think they've done a lot. They're another group that the Southern Poverty Law Center maligns, and because the Harry and the Shark Hunters have reached out to Nazi submariners who were still alive, and they're very dedicated to the history of submarining in World War II. And I feel very positively towards Harry and the Shark Hunters. And I don't mind that you can't copyright a title. And I'm happy when people pick up my material, even if they, to some extent, plagiarize it or use it, which, happens. I'm happy that the theme is being advanced, that there's other people now working on it. So when the series came out on hunting Hitler, even under the same name, that was my book. I supported the television series, and I enjoyed watching it. I didn't feel I'd been ripped off or anything of that nature. That was not my reaction at all. Malachi Martin, in The Third Secret, he'd said that lines would go around the block for confession if people knew the truth. The Malachi Martin's books, I think, are very well worth reading. Windswept House, I believe, is the one I think is probably the best. But he was very much into the satanic rituals that were being conducted in the Vatican. I myself, as raised a Catholic, have had a hard time dealing with the church since Vatican II because things were changed in such a leftist direction. The whole feel of the Catholic Church and its messages to me have been largely lost over the years. I mean, I grew up reading Thomas Aquinas in Latin and understanding Augustine and going back through the church fathers and reading and there's many great theologians, including popular theologians. I mean, even the Lord of the Rings series is in a sense a working out of the Christian story in an allegorical sense. Okay, let's see. Pope John the 23rd was supposed to release The Secret in 1960. He didn't. He read it and he did not release it. And that started a lot of the mystery of it. Malachi Martin said they were doing satanic rituals in the Vatican. His last book was aimed at exposing pedophilia in the church. And there's been people are saying, yes, there's been a sea change in the church's message. I think, it's possible and that the church will go through a reformation again and will, as all of this is exposed, as all of this is brought forward, that there's going to be a opportunity for the church to return to its fundamental mission, which is a mission of Jesus Christ, not a mission of pedophilia or all the other, or climate change, or any of the other kinds of missions that Pope Francis would lead down. I think Pope Francis has weakened the church, and the church financially has been tremendously weakened. Yes, Tom Horn and Chris Putnam did a great job in their books, which are basically, Tom Horn's books have all been focusing on the last pope. And by the way, I did a DVD on the last pope when I was with WND, WorldNet Daily. We had a film crew that went over and we did the whole thing on Bishop Malachi's. I speak Italian, so the film crew did not. So I brought them in to top experts that the Vatican provided us on Malachi. I got great assistance from the Vatican press office to do that. And I think it's very impressive. I like the DVD a lot myself. I still enjoy that DVD. And I'm not sure that Bishop Malachi probably, this whole, he did name the popes until the last pope. And this was done, centuries ago. And they argue that he was accurate. It involved some interpretation because he gave each pope a descriptive name. And there's a good argument that it was written in typical Italian politics to promote a particular person at that time to become the pope. And it was a political document, not a prophecy. And knowing Italian politics, that's quite possible.
Dr. Corsi,
Yes.
Have you ever heard of Meshuggah?
Yes, of course.
'Cause
That's
there's
also
the whole 10 secrets of that.
that's another whole dramatic. That's another whole chapter, because again, that did involve a cross at the top of a mountain or an elevated cross, and the Medjugorje, visions. I've done a lot of reading and studying on the visions of of the Virgin through the years, and they are very interesting, and I don't really dismiss any of them. I think these people who had visions of the Virgin over the years, the most impressive of them to me is Fatima. But and Medjugorje, yes, as Linda Maria de la Rosa points out, Medjugorje was denounced. There was some of the, as Medjugorje went on for years, there was a feeling that some of the people claiming to be visionaries were exploiting it. I go back to the kind of the original Medjugorje, and I think there was a kernel of truth there. I've also seen the Shroud of Turin in person 3 times. 3 expositions I've been to see it in person. And I've interviewed many of the scholars and that, and have attended their meetings and have written about it pretty extensively. Okay, so when we return now, John 8:32, Anke. Okay, the Fatima is not Saint Bernadette. That's Lourdes. And Fatima is 3 children, 3 peasant children in World War I, that in that era, that experienced a series of visions of the Virgin with 3 secrets to them. And the first 2 secrets were pretty openly revealed, but the third was not supposed to be revealed until a long time later. Okay, so if we get back to what Q is talking about with the Hitler lineage, this whole issue of whether or not Merkel is, Hitler's daughter by virtue of this artificial insemination is one that, probably will be debated for a long time and by most dismissed as completely ridiculous. But what Q did point out, I think, and I don't think it's completely ridiculous. I think it's one of those things that, continue to kind of keep looking for more and more evidence of and more thinking of. Now, what Q pointed out, and if we go to even something as simple as Wikipedia, and this is now 929, or he did it twice. He was 928 and 929. This Angela, but I'm just going to conclude. When you look at the physical pictures of Angela Merkel to Hitler, the resemblance seems there for sure. I mean, they do bear a certain resemblance. And I just, if they didn't look at all like each other, like Obama and his Kenyan father, who looked nothing like one another at all, I wouldn't have entertained the possibility. But the physical resemblance has caused me to give it more attention than I probably otherwise would have done. But this whole issue now of Hitler's bloodline, which is very complicated and obscure to some extent, because it goes back over so many years. His genealogy and family tree. Let's see if this is the one I wanted. Okay, and the woman that Q starts off with is this Angela Dorothea Kasner. Okay, so we'll come over here. Okay, now, was she in this one? No, so I don't have the right one yet that I want to look at. Family. Hold on. Hitler family. This is the one I think I wanted. Hold on a second. There's a couple that do this that are better at this. A couple of lineages that I wanted to find that make it pretty clear, but they're sometimes hard to find on the spot when on the looking for them. Wait a second. Here we go. Okay. Okay. Well, Merkel was born a Kasner. Okay, so that's one point to keep in mind. She was born a Kasner. Now I'm going to go back and try to find the and they ultimately try to trace this back to the Rothschilds. I'm just not finding this one article that I wanted that had the genealogy really laid out. Hold on. Hitler's father had 3 wives, and it's a very complicated family tree. Hold on. And the 2 suspicions about Hitler was that he had Rothschild's blood and that he was partly Jewish. No, this is not. Well, maybe it is. Okay. Okay, let's try. Let's just kind of dig into it here. Hitler, the identity of Hitler's biological father has been disputed, and they're not sure really who he was, but they believe that it was, this is how the Schicklgruber gets involved with the mistress that had the baby that was the Alois Hitler's. That was his origin, the Schicklgrubers. The identity of Alois' biological father is disputed. Legally, this Johann Nepomuk Heidler was the step-uncle of Alois Schicklgruber, later Alois Hitler. That's Hitler's father. And this guy, Nepomuk's brother, Johann Goreg Heidler, was Alois' stepfather. Okay, so now when the first one died, they migrated the name to Hitler, And then Hitler himself had 3 wives. This is not particularly the history that I was looking for, but his first wife, and Hitler, Alois Hitler always had the tendency, he was married to a woman, and then he'd have an affair with the housekeeper. So at age of 36, he was married to this Anna Gloss Horer, who was wealthy. She was 50, and she was the daughter of a customs official. She was sick when he married her, either invalid or became afterwards, and she didn't live very long. And Hitler began having an affair with a 19-year-old Francesca Matzelsberger, who was one of the servants in the house. Well, she became the second wife. Okay, and as she got sick, this Carla Polsey, who was the household servant again, was the one that Alois Hitler married the third time. That was the third wife. But she was the 16-year-old granddaughter of his step-uncle. Okay, so he had kind of this incestuous relationship in the whole family. And Matzelberger, the second wife, gave birth to this Angela Hitler, who was the Angela Hitler Kasner. Now she ends up being Hitler's half-sister after Alois Hitler has Adolf Hitler by this Carla Polsey, the second of the housekeepers that he married. Okay, now if I haven't lost everybody yet, that'd be pretty good. But the problem was that this Angela Hitler married this guy named Riefenstahl, and he had they had a daughter called Geli Riefenstahl, who is now Hitler's first niece. Well, in the 20s, Hitler develops a love affair with this first niece, Geli Raubal, R-A-U-B-A-L. She was 17, and she spent the next 6 years in close contact with her half-uncle. Her mother got a position as a housekeeper, and the Geli, moved into Hitler's Munich apartment in 1929 when she enrolled in the Ludwig Maximilian University to study medicine. Well, as it went about that people began suspecting a sexual relationship, and Geli Raubal took her own life in 1931, shot herself with Hitler's pistol. And the guy who ultimately became Hitler's top secretary, was the one who got Hitler out of the apartment, whisked him away, and covered up the whole thing, called it a suicide. We found Hitler in a suicidal depression with a gun in his hand. And this would, of course, would have ruined Hitler's political career. And that essentially was the basis of which Hitler actually was attracted to this young first niece. And so when Q starts out with this, I as soon as I read the first line of it, which was Angela Dorothea Kasner, I said, no, here we're going. I mean, this is going to go down now. We're going to go down the deep path, because this Angela Dorothea Kasner is going to lead us right to Merkel. And that's, in fact, what happened, and that's what, in fact, this whole post is about. Now, needless to say, Merkel is not Donald Trump's favorite EU ruler, and there's no why would he be? And Angela Merkel was an Angela Kastner. Okay, so if you basically go back, family tree of Angela Merkel. Hold on. Is anybody following me, by the way? Am I losing everybody?
No,
Not
we're
at
with
all,
you.
Dr. Corsi. You've got 4,500, almost 4,600 people listening on YouTube right now.
Okay, you started out at less than 3,300.
Okay.
You're not losing, you're gaining.
We're gaining. Well, this is a deep dive. I mean, this is so Angela Merkel, who is, by the way, Angela Dorothea Merkel, and the first line of this, Angela Dorothea Merkel, as we're now with Q being led into the whole Hitler story, is Angela Merkel, the current chancellor. Okay, and they say daughter of a pastor. That suggests, no, that's just the cover story. Name of her father Adolf Hitler. History of the father, we all know the history of the father. And then the haircut today versus then, Alwas. Alwas had a haircut that would have been very current today. It had kind of all this, like how all the sides of his hair were shaved off, and this crop of hair on the top. And the symbolic U.S. intelligence post-war controlled WHO, the mission. Who is Angela Hitler? What is the relationship to Hitler? How were children named in Germany during this period of time? Then he goes through the whole family tree, the Angela, the Anna, the Maria, the Alwas. So basically, Q is suggesting that, there is something to this bizarre story of Angela Merkel through artificial insemination being the daughter of Hitler. Okay, now if that doesn't lose everybody, I'm going to go back and circle around to say that the whole point of this, just like the Obama point of it, is that these people aren't who you think they are. And they are intelligence created. They're picked by intelligence agents, they're cultivated, they're risen to the top, and they're expected to be part of the club. Just as Angela Merkel wants to head the EU, and Obama wanted to essentially be a globalist along with them. And I've said if Adolf Hitler could have had what we have today, namely a CIA and an NSA that can have every conversation in America recorded and get the data from Google and Facebook and Twitter and all the rest and incorporate it into micro-targeting to give a person to those emails and those conversations, and then to profile you psychologically. And if Adolf Hitler could have been told that he would be head of, a European Union that was controlled by the Bundesbank, with a currency that was propped up by Germany, and that the entire EU would be in the service of a dominant German economic system, and you could have a social welfare system take care of everybody else and a little bit of diversity talk, keep everybody satisfied. I mean, Hitler probably would have accepted the bargain. That's basically what Hitler wanted. He wanted the communists gone. He hated the communists. And he wanted, it was Deutschland über alles, Germany over everything. I think that the mission of Hess to Great Britain during the war was a mission to attempt to come to an agreement where Great Britain would join the war with Germany against Stalin. And Churchill didn't go along with it. The royal family would have gone along with it. The royal family including the one that abdicated, were all friends of Hitler and were strong supporters of Hitler. The royal family was not going to go to war with Hitler any more than, that Hitler imagined that they would. He thought Hitler greatly admired the British. And it was Churchill who wouldn't go along with it. Churchill and his heritage with Duke of Marlborough and all that they'd been fighting against the French and the Germans and the Spanish for 300 years just wasn't going to buy the deal. And Roosevelt went along with Churchill. But the point is, the intelligence agencies behind the scenes controlling all of this with, their secret knowledge and their secret agendas and their decision that, the best world would be one in which the intelligence agencies knew everything about us. We were all sheep. We're all in a global government, and it benefited from them. And when they got too many of us people, they would just weed us out with a global war. Take 4 or 5 billion people and kill them off in a nuclear war. Globalists will be in their bunkers. But I'm going to end this particular part of this. I want to show you one more picture. And it's in that article I posted. But it's things like this that I watch all the time, and you'll see it here in a second. I mean, the unconscious gestures that people make. Just take a look at this one here. Angela Merkel and Hitler, who both characteristically fold their hands in front of them like that, with their thumbs together and all the fingers pressed together. You see it?
Yeah. Is that just something that they do, or do you think it's something that's studied?
It's unconscious. I think it's just a kind of like a genetic or probably goes back centuries. People are saying here the Kazner name, Germanized the Polish name, Kazmierczak to Kazner. Merkel's maternal grandparents were the Danzig politicians Willy Jenseg and Gertrude Alma née Drang, the daughter of the clerk of Elbing. Yeah, that makes she's the family heritage is Polish for the name Kazner. I don't know whether if she was born to Braun's sister, it would have only been in name that she was Polish. Eva Braun is also very interesting that she was the photographic assistant of Hoffman. Hoffman took the picture of Hitler in the great Platz, the great square in Munich, this very famous square, where Hitler was when the World War I was proclaimed. And Hitler can be seen in that picture very enthusiastically, and he stands out. Well, when Hitler rose to power, that picture became very famous. And Hitler went and found Hoffman. And he posed for Hoffman in a whole series of pictures, kind of developing the Hitler persona. Actually, the pictures are pretty bizarre, pretty funny. Hitler looks in a strange, dramatic way, trying to imitate, it's a great orator and all the rest. But he fell in love, or he just like the Gelly, the much younger woman. Eva Braun was Hoffman's photographic assistant. And she became ultimately the female companion for Hitler throughout his time when he was chancellor. After I think she got together with him more like around 37 or 38. I don't think she was there at the very beginning. Hitler changed dramatically from 33 through 38, and then 38 when the war was going reasonably well through 41 or 42. But by 43, the Nazis knew they were going to lose. And Hitler began to go into his deterioration with drugs and with, I think, Parkinson's. But yeah, you can see, yes, right, the Duke of Edinburgh and what's her name, the famous woman that he was in love with, I forget her name right off at the second, that they abdicated for the British throne. There's a picture of them together in the live chat with Hitler. They were all, pardon me?
Wallace Simpson.
Yes, Wallace Simpson. Thank you. Yes, Wallace Simpson. And by the way, just as a side note, the recent royal family series that's been broadcast on, I think, Netflix is quite good and largely accurate. Okay, so I think the live chat now is kind of more understanding why we're going into these things. And, you know, again, I'm not saying that there's definitive proof that this story is true. Oh, people are saying Killing This Deep State is now number 3 on Amazon.
Yay!
Thank you all.
I think that's in politics, but overall,
On politics. Let's see where it is on there in general. Been tracking it all day. Hold on. As I say, it would be really good to get that up to 1. We'll see.
Dr. Corsi?
Yeah.
Is there a particular post that you need up on the screen or would be good that you're talking about right now?
There is a picture of the, you find a picture of Simpson and the Duke of Edinburgh and Hitler together. That's a very good picture. It's number 6. It's number 6 overall in books now. We started out today at 23.
I believe Reluctant Guru put one up there.
Yeah, just take a look at the chat. Take a look at the chat. There's one right above. It was Reluctant Guru. The picture is right there. Wallace Simpson, Duke of Edinburgh, and Hitler standing together. Do you see it in live chat? Not in the live chat.
Yeah. However, my skills at managing the Discord and the YouTube window haven't reached that level yet. Okay. If I can scroll any of the Q posts for you, I can definitely do that. But I need a little more time with the program here before I start. They'll end up with no picture if I get going.
Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. We're doing fine. I'm just going to take a look. That's great. If we can just keep going on the book, it'll be tremendous. I'm sure Q is watching it.
All right. Did you see the last picture that he put of Merkel and Trump together that Verb put on there?
No, let me see this one.
That's got Trump.
By the way, somebody's
doing the hand signal.
Yeah.
That's Trump doing the hand signal.
These are the pictures of Hitler in his dramatic mode, the crazy boy, right? The Relict Ant Guru posted. Those are very good pictures. Those are the pictures I was talking about. Yeah, but see, Trump, there's a difference. Trump folds his hand together like he's praying. That's very characteristic of Trump. He doesn't arch his hand so that the fingers touch and there's an open space in the middle. That's Merkel and Hitler. Trump doesn't. I can't recall ever seeing Trump do that.
He is so good, isn't he?
Well, he's probably imitating her. He's probably thinking about this whole issue, talking to her. It doesn't look like he's enjoying the talking to her very much. He refused to shake hands with her. Well, yes, Nazi breeding camps. The SS carefully selected young women and bred babies for the state. Yes, that's right. They did. I like that meme of the deep dive. That's good. That's good. I have to copy that one. So I mean, you see what when you get into the backgrounds of these issues, that's another one. Trump looks like he's going to sleep while he's talking to her. That's another good one. You just gotta like Donald Trump. I mean, it's when the pictures were being taken. Send a good picture back to Germany.
And I have to apologize to the YouTube. I only started working with the program yesterday. I will get better at it, and we will be able to eventually put these things up while the doctor is here. My apologies.
You don't have to apologize for anything. You're doing a great job. You're doing terrific. And we're very confident that you'll master it all.
Oh, I will.
I have no doubt about that. I can hear it in your voice. This is Yoda Grandmaster. Could Q's larger point simply being that he's calling attention to the bloodlines of the world's leaders, the fact that so many of them are related to one another? There's no doubt about that, but the intelligence aspect of it, especially when we do a deep dive of Obama, we're thinking of doing that in the coffee and freedom discussions, that we're going to devote several of those to doing a deep dive about Obama and who he really is. And Thumper, don't worry, we're all confident you're going to get this mastered.
You're the man.
So, basically, as we look through, I'm looking at the comments and seeing if people are always good comments over here in the. I'm very impressed with the people following this on the live chat. Do I think Merkel let the refugee situation get out of hand, or is this what she intended? The problem with the globalists, especially the Germans. The Germans had such a attachment to the Muslims going back to World War II, and their mutual hatred of Jews. And by the way, I consider the anti-Semitism to be, a particularly form of irrationality. I've, in my life, been very close to Israel and support Israel, and think that Germany got a bad bargain trading the Jews for the Muslims. But the point is, and I know many people go back to the Rothschilds and the Jewish bankers and all those issues. And there's not to be, I'm not going to say that there weren't, bad Christians too. I'm sure that there are greedy families and families that have been out of control. But the New World Order group went way beyond the Rothschilds to get this whole idea that you could create money such that we'd have to borrow our money from the Federal Reserve and pay interest on it. And that's where, the central bankers, including Goldman Sachs, and, it'd be hard to argue that, what's his name, Cohn, that just, resigned. I mean, you take a look at the whole list of the investment bankers in Goldman Sachs, and it's always been a surprise to me that they weren't. When I was growing up, Wall Street was all conservative, and today, now, there's so many liberals. It's hard to imagine. Justin Medlin says, "I can say firsthand that Corsi's turned thousands away from say it's a Nazi narrative." It's funny. There's some people out here who just don't want to talk about the Nazis at all. There's thousands have been turned away because we're saying about the Nazi narrative and mentioning Jewish families that dominate the world. Extremely. I didn't say Jewish families dominate the world. I guess Justin is just not hearing correctly today. But what?
Don't feed the trolls.
The reason why we're in this subject, I'm going to remind everybody, is not because I brought it up, but because Q brought it up. When you look at these posts, 928, 929, unless we're supposed to ignore these posts, then we're supposed to understand them. And I don't imagine the Q posted them frivolously. They're there for a reason. And, if you look at the center of that 928, what jumped out on me was U.S. intelligence post-war controlled who? Well, I mean, again, you're right back into the Dulleses and the Operation Paperclip and other things that have been suppressed from the American public's, awareness. I went and looked at the Operation Paperclip files at the archives. And there's literally thousands of German scientists we brought over, and the files will tell you, this scientist is still a Nazi. He still thinks the same way he did to begin with, but we're going to bring him over anyway. And this is not. Q is demanding that we sort through this history, and I think we're going to have to do it more than once before we're done here to understand fully what's going on here. There was this very strong Nazi party in the United States prior to World War II. Okay, let's see what we say. Just trying to see if there's anything else here. If you Google images of the Nazis at the Vaticans, you can find pictures. Tracy Bean's video of today's show. Tracy Bean's covered this theme too. I recall seeing in one of her videos, and she's done exceptionally good work. I'm hardly anti-Semitic. I mean, I've done a lot for Israel over the years, created 2 mutual funds when I was working in banking for the state of Israel. One with Bank Leumi, the other with Bank Hapoalim. Okay, this is a very good question. Balti Gal said, why is Israel saved for last? Well, what do you save for last?
The best.
The best. You save the best for last. And we're going to find out some things about Israel that is, important, I believe, to God. Certainly if you read the Bible, Israel's front and center. And I think it's going to be important to us in the unfolding of all of this New World Order evil and the deep state. There's so many people, I mean, I'm not even going to repeat that. Well, there's certain people, there's certain themes in here. I mean, when we got the Internet Bill of Rights, and I championed it. I championed it because I knew Donald Trump had championed it. And I knew the backstory between Donald Trump and AT&T. And hold on, yeah.
You're number 6 already.
I see that. Thank you. My wife thinks it's going to be number 1 tomorrow. I hope she's right.
Might be by the time the night's over.
It'd be great. Okay, hold on.
I need to break in for just a second. Someone on YouTube is saying that the White House is on lockdown due to a suspicious package. Do we know if that's true?
Take a look at Drudge. There were these packages delivered.
Apparently, according to Sarah Carter, so.
Well, Sarah Carter is usually reliable. I've always had great admiration for Sarah Carter. Her work is terrific, along with John Solomon. I don't know that. Angel Rain says lots of information on Israel. Well, I think we all do, and there's going to be plenty that will come out, I believe. And the point I was going to make is that Internet Bill of Rights, I said that, and it kind of almost like the Anons divided over it. You know, this is point, because they couldn't see that it was AT&T, it had to be bad. Or why do we need a new Bill of Rights? We've already got a Bill of Rights. And there are all kinds of objections raised to it. And then Q came on and said several times, hold on, let me find it. Let's see, okay, it's Q made it very clear that the what's that? The IBOR, or Internet Bill of Rights, in
2 posts.
884, where one of the Anons said, please tell us it's still no deals and the people will face justice. Please just say yes, they will. I pray so hard every night. And Q said, no deals. We work for you. We listen to you. You pushed the IBOR, and immediately POTUS began to comment and took action, raised social media, play the game with us. And, I wrote one of the first articles on AT&T, and I have no doubt that Trump read it, that it was impacted the whole thinking, because it came to me from basically sources close to the White House. And in 873, we're talking about at Snowden, it's the Ray IBOR. This scares them more than anything. Law control, use logic. Nothing to do with AT&T. Must be regulated to prevent censorship and narrative push. So, I mean, it's clear that this Internet Bill of Rights is central to Donald Trump's thinking about how we're going to regulate, and we're going to regulate the Internet, and how we're going to stop the YouTubes from canceling the accounts of conservatives and libertarians, and the same with all the others, and giving the data over to the CIA, which somehow they think is just, rosy dandy. And the left has no problem today with the CIA, which astonishes me. The left today bears no resemblance to the traditional left. I mean, the left of the 50s embraced Russia and demeaned McCarthy for saying that there were communists in the government. The left in those years hated the CIA. Today, the left seems to embrace the CIA. Brennan's head of the CIA, I think Obama's handler. And the left has decided that they don't like Russia anymore. You've got Isakov writing a book with Putin and Trump on the front of it like they were Russian icons, like USSR.
They don't like Russia because Russia's not communist anymore.
That may well be the point. That may well be the point. But Russia still, I mean, you can spend time in Poland after the fall of the wall, and there's still the thinking doesn't go away, of the communism of the thinking doesn't go away. So, the point is, it's the same with Israel and the Jews. As soon as we mention Israel and the Jews, all the trolls go insane. They want Q discussed, but they don't want to have anything to do with the Jews or anything to do with Israel. And the anti-Semitism astonishes me that comes out just like the anti-AT&T. Not all corporations are equally bad. I mean, AT&T is trying to get control of CNN and not to foster Jeff Zucker's agenda. And Trump is extremely close to Israel. and understands he played an historic role in saying that we're going to move the capital and move our embassy, to the capital. And that's a bold move. That's essentially, Donald Trump going back to biblical purposes and affirming that this is the Jewish state of Israel. And that's because that's what God intended. And if you don't believe that, read the Bible. And that's the problem with, the anti-Israel, anti-Jew hatred is, I think, it's debilitating for those to whom it grabs, and it's just wrong. I mean, okay, there are rabbis that fervently oppose Zionism. You're calling hundreds of people in this chat trolls. No, I'm not. And I'm not saying that, see, again, as soon as we touched upon Merkel being the Hitler's daughter, everybody came on out. That was awful. Now we're talking about Israel, so we're going through it all over again. Look, Zionism was the original enthusiasm of to go back, Ben Gurion, the original president of Israel, to go back and establish Israel as a Jewish state. It had been not a Jewish state since the Romans in like 79 AD did what Jesus Christ said they were going to do, and that was tear down the temple and throw the Jews out of Israel to the extent they could. And began naming it Palestine, and did everything they could to put Roman gods in the place of where the Jewish temple was and everything else. And yet the biblical understanding, even if you read Ezekiel, is that God's allegiance to preserve the state of Israel once reestablished is another compact that God has made with Israel. And, so Zionists run, like James Rankine, Zionists run Washington, D.C. Israel attacked the U.S. Liberty, killed 34 crewmen, attacked ship to get U.S. into war with Egypt. I mean, there are very strong political lobbies in Washington that are pro-Israel. Very strong lobbies in Washington that are pro almost anything you can think of. It doesn't mean that Zionists run Washington. Jewish people, for the majority of it, the Zionists are the evil bastards. And Jesus warned us of their treachery. Jesus warned us of the treachery of the Sadducees and the various hypocrites that were at that time, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were trying to exploit the Jewish faith for gain. But Jesus did not say that the Zionists were running Washington, D.C. The Talmud speaks of Jesus burning in hell in hot excrement. It calls Mary a whore and speaks of Christians as worthless cattle to be exploited. Revelations 3:9 says it all, in my humble opinion. That's anti-Islam. Well, we're not talking about Islam. We're talking about that Israel is going to play a very important part of this game. And I assure you that when it comes down to Israel, you're going to hear from Q what you heard over the Internet Bill of Rights. And that is, you got to get your head straight and see the role that Israel's going to play. Because Israel's been assigned, I think, by God, a big role to play, and it's going to play it. Already has started. And they're trolling you, and you're getting off topic. I know there's some trolls, but I don't think. I think the vast majority of the people who are posting on the YouTube are truly in the Q movement and are truly patriots. But I think that there are different issues that confuse even the patriots. As soon as you say AT&T, Internet Bill of Rights, a switch goes off. That AT&T has to be bad. Or as soon as you talk about a role Israel can play positively, a switch goes on. And, you know, we can't trust those Zionists and the Rothschilds and the bankers and the greed. And, you know, it wasn't Shylock and Shakespeare and all of this. I mean, this is, you know, again, and don't listen to the trolls. Look, we've got to confront this issue, just as we had to confront the issue of Internet Bill of Rights, because Trump is going there because it's the only solution. We have to apply the Bill of Rights to the Internet so we have the same freedoms that we do in general. And the Internet's going to have to be regulated as a monopoly, and the FTC has the tools to do it. And I think we're going to have the same issues with the with understanding the role that Israel's going to play and understanding how Israel fits into this. Which side is Bibi on? I remember first seeing Bibi Netanyahu probably in the 80s in Jerusalem. He was there with a group of his advisors, and he was on an early cell phone. And I was with a group from B'nai B'rith, and they pointed out to me that moment they thought that he would be prime minister. And that got to be the case. I've met him a couple of times. Bibi, I think, is very much with Trump. Obama treated Netanyahu like dirt, and Obama's Muslims' instincts were apparent whenever Bibi came into Washington. Trump embraces Bibi and is moving the capital and moving our embassy to the capital. Just to circle all this back to what we're talking about with Merkel and Hitler and all the rest, and to why Q is bringing up all these subjects, and Q's given us a little break here so we could kind of reconnect some of these dots. And, you know, I've been trying to weave them together so, you know, Q doesn't have to feel like they went too deep. You know, we're now going to fill in the backfill here so everybody follows up. That there were elements within the Catholic Church, it doesn't mean that the entire Catholic Church was Nazi. At that time, that was a major issue. I mean, I've lived with this all my life. My father, I had his yearbook from high school in the 30s. He was known as the fascist, Italian, loved Mussolini. And for many in that era, the fascists were a positive economic force to get out of the Depression. They didn't mean what they meant today. They were on the left. They were National Socialists. Now, this whole anti-Fa, the reason it's called anti-Fa is because it was opposed to the National Socialists, and it was the paramilitary wing of the Communist Party. It's now become the paramilitary wing of the Democratic Party, and it shows how far the Democratic Party has gone to become a European-style socialist or communist party. That they would be comfortable with the same anti-fascist, because fundamentally the communist enemy is the socialist. The fight between fascism and communism, between the National Socialists and Stalin,
like it's two different things.
It's a fight within the left. This has always been a fight within the left. It's not right and left. It's a fight within the left. And the intelligence agencies utilize these fights, utilize these divisions in order to advance their own New World Order agenda. in which they are the elite, they are in control, they know everything. It's why it's so threatening to the elite, threatening to the CIA when Q says, we know everything, we hear everything. Because remember, Q, I maintain, is military intelligence. It's a fundamental difference. It's Army military intelligence by training. That's the discipline that Q is coming from. And that's about as patriotic as you can get. And as opposed to what the CIA has done since its creation, and this is the one great opportunity with Donald Trump to kill this deep state. That's why I wrote the book. That's what I want to do, and that's the opportunity. Lionel, let me call you back. That's Lionel wanting to say hello. Good friend.
Hey, Lionel.
So this is, I think, the background of what we're, and it's almost like Q gave us a little bit of a breather here so we could fill this in. And I kind of sensed that over the weekend. I was going to be spending a lot of time this week trying to go through, step by steps through some of these history lessons. We're going to do it on the, Coffee and Freedom as well. We're going to continue this, a little bit more deeper dive into who Obama really is and how Obama came about. But before this is over, I think that the Q intends to expose Obama and intends to bring this to justice and intends to Jesus never mentioned Zionists because they're a much more recent political movement. I'm sorry, but there have been Zionists around for about 3,000 years in terms of their enthusiasm to establish a Jewish state. That doesn't wash. The whole point of what we have to do here is confront some of the ideas that are easily, all of us have ideas that we've been programmed by the intelligence agencies that now control virtually the entire school system in the left. And it's hard to get through. I'm sure Q is struggling. I'm sure that's part of the reason, and the sense that part of the role I can play is to help sort some of this stuff out. We maybe don't always do it correctly, but if you look at pictures, for instance, if you look at 941 with this anti-fascist symbol, it's a Communist Party meeting, you'll see the hammer and sickle right behind the anti-fascist banner. That the anti-fascists were clearly, the arm of the communists in Germany in the Weimar Republic that were trying to have street battles with the brown shirts. And so, when you get into the background of this, the reason I think Q is saying in 928 that we've got to look at the whole issue of Merkel and all these issues with Hitler is because to unravel the story, we went immediately to Corsi in order to understand what this is about. And to understand Obama, I assure you, we're going to go right immediately to the CIA in order to understand Obama, where he came from. And, in World War II was the origins of the OSS, which was the agency that came to replace, our intelligence agency, the only one we had, but CIA replaced the OSS. And the two who were very instrumental in that whole creation were the Dulleses. Alan Dulles ran the CIA and the Bushes. Well, the Dulleses and the Bushes funded Hitler and Hitler's rise. And these things are complicated, to sort out. But we're going to have to take one whole session, I think, and really talk about the relationship. David Horowitz's book, The Unholy Alliance, is brilliant in terms of analyzing why Germany is attracted to Islam, why the left is attracted to Islam. And the hard part, even today, is to understand that Merkel and these others are leftists, because people have been programmed to think of Germany as the right. Hitler is the right. They weren't. These are the leftists.
We grew up on the term right-wing Nazi.
And that was programmed in to begin with. That's a intelligence agency creation to confuse people and to disguise the fact that, the right wing at this particular time, as today, were nationalist patriots. Right wing didn't have, the right wing wasn't, it was the left that embraced the Nazis, even in the United States. You had the famous flyer who flew the Atlantic, what's his name?
Lindbergh. Big figure
in the American Nazi movement. Well, he was on the left. He wasn't on the right. The on the right were people you don't hear about, like Smedley Butler. He is on the right. Smedley Butler was a general who was very famous in the Philippines and fought in World War I. When Hitler was coming to power, a group from Wall Street came to offer Smedley Butler to create his own private army, like the Brown Shirts or like the Antifa, and that he would then stage a coup d'etat and they would get rid of Roosevelt because Roosevelt was a communist. Well, those were people on the left who were like the DuPonts and the others. They weren't right-wingers. They were basically the socialists who wanted to recruit Smedley Butler to beat what they perceived as the communists. And the American, they had George Washington's picture in Madison Square Garden, and the American Bund would meet, and they'd have these big meetings and say, well, that's right-wing. No, it wasn't right-wing. It was left-wing. They were socialists. They didn't like communists. People don't understand that that's the fundamental distinction on the left. And it's between whether the state owns all the property or whether there's private property but the state owns the multinational corporations and they rule under their rules. That's the best set of rules we can have, is what's good for business. That's the good for business is good for America. General Motors said that. Again, that was not said on the right. That was said in the context of providing minimum wage and other issues that the left was demanding. And the right wing have always been Smedley Butler. Well, what did Smedley Butler do? He told Congress, and he turned in these guys from Wall Street. They held hearings. Smedley Butler went home. He said, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that damn fool thing. I'm not going to cause an insurrection against the Constitution of the United States. He didn't. Now that's a patriot. That's what the right is about. The right is ultimately out of the Locke-Hume tradition of what used to be called liberal politics, the true liberals.
Classic liberals now.
Classic liberals, which, today are considered conservatives. Conservatives today are classic liberals.
Or small L libertarian.
Or small L libertarian. like, brothers and sisters. Their differences are on the right. But you don't find conservatives and libertarians going to war against each other. You find communists and socialists going to war against each other, and then blaming the right. And that's part of the whole confusion here, that we're really dealing with leftists who are the globalists, including Wall Street. And it's tough to get your mind around that. But when you do, you see it much more clearly. And that's, I think, the point that all this history that Q is demanding that we go through, it sorts out at the end to say that, the true patriots reject both the socialists and the communists and all of their lies. Because when you look at the Founding Fathers, there are all these lies and all these confusions and all this nonsense sort through. This is all because the left created it on purpose. And the CIA advanced it. This was the Dulleses. The Dulleses were fundamentally Nazis. But that doesn't mean on the right, that means on the left. And that's often the very hard part to understand about this, and hard part to sort out, is that Hitler was the first to have progressive medicine, first to want universal education, first to want kind of minimum wages of the day, vacations for workers, paid leave for maternity. Where did all these ideas come from? They were National Socialist ideas in the 30s. They weren't the Democratic Party of the 1960s. They were just recycling the ideas. And, by the 1960s, the Democratic Party had been moving in that, becoming the true socialist. Now the Democratic Party is so far to the left. It's so far over the cliff with its identity politics. I'll kind of end with this. I went into New York today. They got me an Uber, and the guy was completely a leftist. He was listening to all these leftist radio stations, and they were debating things like how wonderful it was that this guy's son thought Wonder Woman was his hero, and he was wearing dresses around, and how they were kind of ashamed that the boys liked guns and occasionally wanted to fight each other, and they were embarrassed that they thought this was an assertion of male aggressiveness, and they contemplated how they had to really make sure everybody understood white privilege. And I'm listening to this and I'm saying, these people are so far off the farm that no wonder that they seem to think pedophilia is okay. Or they seem to think that, the abuses of Hollywood are what they want to embrace in order to impeach Donald Trump. Well, this whole thing, Donald Trump is I think by the grace of God won. And what we're trying to do is, I think by the grace of God, make sure that he stays there and gets reelected, because we need 8 years to root out this deep state and
Amen.
to get it back to the fundamental principles that we believe in. The fundamental principles of Jesus and the Bible, and the fact that I hate to break it to the left, but yet there are these differences between men and women. Now I know that's really that probably is enough right there to keep me out of Great Britain these days, but maybe not apparent to the left, but to those of us who are still capable of seeing, saying that this emperor had, that Obama as an emperor had no clothes on, he was naked. I mean, these fundamental differences shouldn't be hard to perceive.
We need to celebrate those differences too.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of to, the reason God created mothers and fathers.
I'm pretty happy with the differences.
Never bothered me. So look, we'll do more of this until Q posts some new things, because I think this respite is meant to go over some of this ground, and I think Q understood how some of these issues were going to be difficult. And I just want to conclude by telling everybody how I've been appreciative of, support that you've given this Killing the Deep State, and to reassure you that we're going to, advance this to advance the story that Q wants told. I think Donald Trump will embrace it. And when you see that the Issacoff book is the book we're really dealing with, it wants to advance a picture of Donald Trump as a communist. I mean, give me a break. These people are just so far gone that, I don't know how even...
They can't get him for being a Russian, so they have to get him for being a communist?
Well, take a look at the cover of that book. It's like the old style USSR, and there's Donald Trump, like they're all on top of the Moscow Square and that tomb of Lenin. You got Trump, you got Kushner, Manafort, Putin. I would say, give me a break.
Doctor?
Oh, yes. Yes.
From someone in chat, it says, obvious really. So, Dr. Corsi, what is going to happen in the UK? Has May been warned, or are we doomed to be sacrificed?
Who be sacrificed? I didn't quite understand that.
So they're asking, has May been warned, or are the people in the UK doomed to be sacrificed?
Well, the UK is at a real tipping point right now, and I mean, I've always loved London. I've always enjoyed the British, and the long-term relationship we've had. A couple wars that got in the way in 1776 and 1812, but since then we've been, great friends and allies. And the May is facing a very difficult situation. I mean, you've got a Muslim London. You've got the leftist ideology which overtook after Churchill was gone. They went so far to the left.
Pretty sure Q himself mentioned May, and didn't he say something about her being neutralized or something?
Yes, that is correct. May's been
awesome.
neutralized.
I don't know why we're asking Dr. Corsi. I think Q himself said it.
Well, I was getting around to the fact that May has a very difficult time because even with getting Brexit to happen, the globalists, the hard left is so determined to destroy Great Britain from what it historically has been. And it'll be a great tragedy if that happens. I mean, again, the thought reform, the cultural revolution, the Maoism, you can't say anything that isn't politically correct. You can't express it. You have to be worried about all these identity politics issues that I listened to in the car going into the city today. At the end of that, I say, now I really understand again why Donald Trump won. Is that, the average American, thank God, still, clings to our Bibles and believes in our Second Amendment, clings to our guns and our Bible. And the left hates that. May has a very difficult time, and I'm sure she's been compromised. But, I think Nigel Farage and others in Great Britain, it's very much like the United States. There's a groundswell developing of patriots all across Europe who are saying no to these leftists, including Merkel. And, once you... Pardon me?
I'm sorry. So it was May that was warned, or was it Merkel that was warned?
They're both been, well, May has been, May is,
I think neutralized and Merkel was
neutralized. Yeah, I mean, that's another story. I think somebody over here, Theresa May's background is something for another day, and her father, but that's another long story. So let's, I think basically I think May is conservative. I think May would like to bond together with Trump. And I think, if Trump gets through this period of time, I think he's going to be able to reach out to the patriots in all these countries and have a rebirth of freedom across the globe. It's why I called this the second American Revolution, the second worldwide revolution, and we're just in the beginning of it. But we're going to have to. Oh yes, people are. The Opium Wars in Britain. There's so much of this history to sort it all out.
I think they were pushing you to the next post up. The one we haven't finished 929. I think they were pushing you toward 930, where they were asking if whether it was May referenced or whether it was Merkel referenced.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to that. 9:30.
We have thoroughly enjoyed the history lesson here.
Well,
I say continue it.
I think I'm going to take a break. It's probably family time here coming. It's been around and family time coming on. POTUS's 30. POTUS's recent tweet relevant here. EU, enough is enough. She was warned. Merkel was warned.
I thought he was warned. He warned her in the speech too, because he specifically stated Mercedes-Benz and BMW. He said, we'll just throw a tariff on your cars, and if you don't like our tariffs, then you won't be able to bring your cars here.
Well, he warned Merkel's who he warned. Enough is enough. They're tired of the EU. And his recent tweet was one of the tweets about the importance of if we bring the steel industry back to America, we get coal back into production. Forget Arnold Schwarzenegger. I dug in at Schwarzenegger in a couple posts today saying that Exxon or one of the big oil, it should be charged with murder. I mean, this insanity of the left, this carbon, I don't know, they wanted a carbon tax so they could redistribute income worldwide. I mean, it was engineered by a few greedy Democrats. This whole thinking of we get coal, we get steel back. That's Cleveland. That's Pittsburgh. We get coal back. That's West Virginia and Pittsburgh. We bring back towns like Youngstown. We get revitalization in some of the cities like Cincinnati. We start spreading that revitalization. Detroit. Bring back the car manufacturing in Detroit. These are what the Democrats have killed. It's what the left has killed by the globalism, by these international treaties, these, all of which sound really good. Trans-Pacific Partnership. We don't need a Trans-Pacific Partnership any more than we need a hole in our head.
They need us to be their Trans-Pacific partner.
Right, and we ought to basically say our goal, like Donald Trump said, is to make America strong, our economy strong, and if you people had half a brain, you'd be doing the same thing for yourselves in your own country. Instead of putting up, with these Merkels and everything else. The German... The confusion, the German personality was always considered to be authoritarian. The father's the disciplinarian, etc. So they thought that means they are hard right, which is, dictator, totalitarian. No, that's all left. That's all the left wants. And the left wants the dictators and the totalitarians. They want the Stalins and the Hitlers and the left. The right wants to limit terms. wants to limit power, is worried about government achieving too much. The original patriot in political philosophy was Aristotle, who said the same thing: have a strong middle class, protect the nation state, and have a constitution that defines rights. Aristotle studied constitutions, and what we have today derives from Aristotle. And it derives from Aristotle through the classic liberal politicians of the Hobbes, the Locks, the Humes, the John Stuart Mills, the Edmund Burkes, all that generation of thinkers were the logical and the historical descendants from Aristotle. But Aristotle had it figured out as brilliantly as anyone, and it hasn't varied. But sorting out this modern history and getting the intelligence agencies' confusion out of it is part of the Q exercise. That's part of the task that Q has assigned us in order to get this back into the hands of patriots. Okay, so let me say, unless we get some more Q posts, which I'll come back, I say God bless everybody, and let's keep moving forward.
God bless.
God bless you too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corsi.
Thanks for the history lesson.